I'm
Good afternoon, everyone. This is Holly. We are live again, day 4 of our National Guard, bringing out the National Guard and Reserves, the realities that they live in, getting to know their community a little bit better, because when you don't understand something, you should always ask questions. And what better questions to ask than our military spouses, because they are the expert on the be-all. We all know a lot of things, not everything, but we know a lot. And today we have Miss Alicia Ward, who she is one of my favorite people ever in all times. Whenever I need something, she always gives me good advice and guidance. So thank you so much for joining.
No worries.
So I'm going to hand the mic over. Basically, you're going to give me that cool fact. I did have you do a little research and find something for me, because we'll leave that for you to say. And you're going to talk about, you know, who you are, the background of who you are, your spouse, what you're going to educate Holly today and along our audience about the National Guard. And then you're going to give us some resources or things that you have seen that maybe is not working in the community and you are trying to fix, or things that still need to be fixed. Sounds good?
Sure thing. Right now I'm trying to cover my cat, who feels that, you know, it's right now is the opportune time to start nipping at my ankles. But I'll tell you a really cool fact. Today is D-Day, as you know, the 75th anniversary of D-Day, beginning end of World War II. And a lot of folks don't know the significance of the National Guard in World War II. And know even that prior to the start of our entry into World War II, you know, 334,000 National Guardsmen were actually activated ahead of it in September of 1940. And even as D-Day, it continued on, our Guard still served. But on D-Day, members of the Ohio National Guard, Army National Guard, were present on that beach in Normandy as a part of ending World War II. And it's so significant because really the Army did exist, but bringing those numbers in from the National Guard effectively doubled the United States Army at that time. And so our National Guards folks, who were actually out there living their lives, farming their fields, doing their thing, became a big part of what allowed us to be successful in World War II. So I think that's a really cool fact. And then
very cool fact
thing that Holly wants me to tell you is our National Guard song. There was a National Guard song that existed prior. No one knew it. No one knew who wrote it. It was a little bit obscure. And then in 2016, our then Joint Chief, General Frank Grass, commissioned a little contest for folks to submit a song. And so Chief Warrant Officer 4, David Myers, who was out of the Vermont Army National Guard Army Band, was successful in his submission of creating our song, Always Ready, Always There, which is our motto. But it's actually kind of cool, you know, it's like, we are National Guard, always ready, always there. I could play it.
Yeah, I want you to play it. I want you to play it because
well, it's got it on the phone, so it's going to sound a little janky.
No, but it's so important because when we attend military spouses functions, there you go.
Yeah, there's a bunch of verses, but we won't do that all day.
No. Well, this is so important because when we attend military functions, they always have us stand up. A lot of people don't know this. So if you're watching this and you're non-military or you're a spouse and you haven't attended an official function, one of the fun things as a spouse, we get to stand up and they recognize us and they play. They say, when we play your service branch song, you stand up. And I notice every time our National Guard spouses, because it's either Air or Army, they're a little like, they see themselves as Army. They see themselves as National Guard because a lot of times they attend those balls, so they only recognize those songs. Mm-hmm. So Sam, this was specially, Alicia found this for you because she had said to us at the Missouri event, Holly, I don't know our National Guard song because you only attend an actual Army ball. So sweet Sam, she got to go to Normandy What a wonderful experience for her this week to be able to, on D-Day, coming back and everything. I can't wait to hear everything. This was for you. So I love it. You do have an actual song.
We do have an actual song. I mean, who knew? The cool part is, I mean, we still stand for our service branches being a National Guard with Air Force and with Army. There is, there's going to be some of that disconnect, but I mean, it goes with the uniform that our spouses wear or the uniform that some of us have worn. And so as a result, we have that particular kinship to that particular branch, understanding that we're still National Guard, and that National Guard pride, as you can see from all the National Guard spouses that you've encountered, is something that's really deeply instilled within us. And one of the things I haven't done is actually introduce myself. So I'm going to go ahead and do that really quickly, since we've only got this really cool 15-minute chat, and Holly and I can talk for hours. Yes. I am the 2013 military spouse of the Armed Forces Insurance Military Spouse of the Year. Let me make sure I get that correctly. And I represented the National Guard at that time. My husband, who is Air National Guard, is currently assigned to the District of Columbia Air National Guard as a part of the Joint Services National Guard for the District of Columbia, which is the only National Guard unit that reports directly to the President of the United States. Other National Guard units are actually report to their governors in our dual mission. I'm the mom of 3, oldest is 27, I mean, goodness, and the youngest is 12, and there's one in between there who actually thinks he's 30, but he's not. And so, having been around for quite some time, I've been a military spouse, both Army with my ex-husband, active duty, reserve, and National Guard, and with my current spouse, who's been Air active duty, Air Reserve, and Air National Guard. Kind of seen a lot about how life has been for us as National Guard. And for a group of citizen soldiers who live in every single zip code of the United States, it's incredible how much is unknown about us and how much is unknown about the unique capabilities and the unique qualities of the National Guard. We are dual-hatted. We serve both our local missions, so of course anything happens, as you know, with the floods going on that have been going on for the last few months, Guard units have been activated to save people from drowning, get folks out of their houses, provide food, and really support what we need within our country. But we're also dual-hatted in that we deploy quite a bit to serve our mission overseas and, our foreign contingencies. And given the fact that we originally really weren't set up for this, we're a militia. I mean, we were the ones who threw down the rates and picked up a musket and took off to defend our country locally. It kind of puts a unique strain on us. But that strain only comes from folks not really knowing who we are and what we do. And we do both. Essentially, we do both. And so our National Guard soldiers and airmen will have to leave their families, leave their jobs, and activate in active duty, because we currently serve, usually if you serve on the weekends, you're on what's called Title 32 orders, which the United States Code 32 kind of governs the Guard and Reserve. You're paid for those. Those training orders don't typically count towards your time either. And so when we are activated, we then become Title 10, which is active duty, and serve just like active duty units. But then when we come off of those orders, a lot of those benefits that exist for active duty kind of go away for us. And so it's difficult for folks to really understand the unique challenges our National Guard families face and our soldiers and airmen face, having to go in and out of status and kind of hoping that when they get back, they still have their job. Most employers will hold a job for them because we've gotten to that point where this is okay. But prior to 9/11 and other instances where our National Guardsmen have served, and we've served in absolutely every single conflict that's ever existed in the United States, it's always been a little bit touch and go for us. So that's kind of what the Guard looks like, and how we hope getting information about the National Guard will help both our active duty partners, sisters and brothers, and our citizens understand a little bit more about who we are, what we do, and what our unique needs are. And so if folks want to take a look at that to find and understand our National Guard, they can visit National Guard .mil for our official information. And then if you're looking for information regarding the National Guard in your states, there is Joint Services Support, which you can take a look at jointservicessupport.org. Click on your particular state, and you can actually see what resources are there that run the gamut from Yellow Ribbon all the way down to local support from our local vendors and services. And
so what do you recommend? Because the issue, well, it's two things. One that I hear a lot about is, and we try not to tap in too much of it because that could be a whole nother show. It's, always called Tricare, trying to activate with the insurance. And then the other thing is that our spouses feel disconnected, and especially more so in the National Guard. I think looking at everything, I think our coasties, even though they have different stressors and issues, their community is so tight with each other. And then the Army's just so big, but they have those supports within their community. Air Force is always about family. So, they have a great resources on base for them. Our Marine Corps is, we just tie in there and go at it, whatever way direction we can. But with the National Guard, I feel as if listening, that everybody's just so spread out, and then explaining and trying to okay, your battalion is here and your unit could be here and your support is here. What do you recommend as someone who is, I'm going to call you seasoned and baked, because that's what you are, and you love to cook. What do you recommend for any of our spouses that are in that turmoil of feeling like, I'm not connected and I want friends? I'm having a surgery and I don't even know who to contact.
And that's where the National Guard tends to be a little bit different. We tend to stay in our communities. And so one of the challenges the challenge that really exists is when our soldier or airman activates, and we want to get information regarding that specific activation. So the house that I live in, for example, we've had this house for about 20 years. We stopped PCSing, of course, when he got off active duty. I know everyone who lives on my street. I know everyone who lives in practically everyone who lives in my neighborhood. So my local support, if I need a ride or something like that, exists. It just so happens his unit is pretty close by. But we have folks who actually travel in from Georgia to drill with the DC National Guard. Travel in from Pennsylvania to live with the DC National Guard. And so within our community, we have those supports. It's a lot like a coastal community. We're pretty tight-knit. We're there. However, it's when we activate, and when we activate, they become a part of a different unit. They become a part of a different number. And so when that happens, it makes it a little bit more difficult because some folks, for the first one, they have no idea who to call. They don't live near a base. They don't live near an installation. So my recommendation to them is always go to your nearest installation. Talk to someone there. You've got a spouse who is on Title 10 orders or on Title 32 AGR orders. Go to your installation. Your support and your resources are going to look completely different than if you are in your normal, what we call a DSG. You show up for training status. And so, and that's a little bit of the lack of understanding or lack of education that our active duty community typically doesn't know about us. We live in our homes, we live in our communities, we go to the same churches, we build our own communities around ourselves, but we don't have a military community around ourselves, which is why when our National Guard folks transition, it's not as difficult as when our active duty folks will go, all right, let me pick where I'm going to live next.
Right. You're on the flip side.
Yeah, you're totally flip side. And so, we get it with our active duty sisters and brothers. We go, yeah, I understand. We go through that sometimes, but we're a little bit more anchored in our communities than our active duty folks are, because unless we rotate through a 2-year tour through the National Guard Bureau or a 4-year tour through the National Guard Bureau, we typically don't PCS in guard status. And even when we do, we typically go back to where we came from.
And so do y'all have Facebook pages? Do you have those resources where?
Oh, we absolutely do. Those resources exist. I mentioned Joint Services Support. There is a Facebook page. Okay. There's building military communities. There's also the National Guard support pages. But again, if you go to Joint Services Support, it actually then points you to all of the officially endorsed Facebook pages. And it also gives you the official Facebook pages, linked Twitter accounts and such for those within your particular state, because every state, even though we're one unit,
and that's the common thing we've heard from everyone this week. And I think that's so important because many of your spouses don't know that. And it's not, and we've talked about this. This is something you've talked about. It's not that it's not there. I always say the Marine Corps is never going to hand our families just anything. It's never a package. It is there. It's up to you to kind of dig and find, which, you know, I know some people are like, but that's not right. That's just life. They got other things, you know, other things to worry about than that. The resources are there. It's the way we're delivering the communication and getting it out to our public. So that was why in my heart, I'm like, I reached out to y'all right after Miss Soy was like, I feel like I need to do this. I need to do this series because it's here. And let's communicate it. Let's communicate together and share the videos because you just gave us a whole list of things that are really, really wonderful. And so I want to tap on one more thing real quick about the Tricare. Something I didn't realize that every time.
Oh, goodness, yes.
Yeah. So just briefly do that and then we're going to finish off.
Well, there is Tricare Reserve. It exists. You can pay for it. And typically the cost is a little bit higher. However, most of our folks will have insurance through our civilian side. However, when we do activate, we then go into Tricare Prime or Standard for the 6 months to 24 months to 28 months that our airman or airman or soldier deploys, which then creates the hand-on, hand-off, hand-on, hand-off situation where there are some times that our folks are out of coverage. And so we have families whose airman or soldier deployed for a significant amount of time. They're covered for 180 days under the Yellow Ribbon program if their orders exceed 180 days or more. However, when that 6 months is up, poof, it all goes away. You then go back into Tricare Reserve, which then looks again completely different. It may require you to change doctors. It may require you to change plans. And so most of our folks will elect to be covered under their existing employer's plan, which is why our National Guard program at ESGR, you know, understanding and recognizing employers and employer groups who will continue to give benefits to their mobilized airmen and soldiers.
So important.
So significant and so important, and why we always say to folks, definitely nominate your employer if your employer is going above and beyond. You know, I really please do that because it's so important. So many don't.
And I think this is important because the Blue Star survey. Why it's so important for us to fill this out, because if this is actually, I think, something that could absolutely be fixed. And I don't know, I mean, I'm not an expert in that, but I know that you can look at it and think about it. That's such a difficult thing to transition back and forth and figure this out. And then having to switch doctors. And I mean, when we have our children that are special needs, or if you're a diabetic, if you're for me, you know, a heart issue is it's a big issue. Trying to find a cardiologist is not easy for our military family.
It's not. And that's why one of the things is,
and there's not a list out there for us. There's not a list. And then the other thing is that Tricare is always secondary to commercial insurance. Yeah. And so given the fact that if you do have commercial insurance, and I've encountered this quite a few times, which is why I just said, you know what, just leave Tricare over there in its corner and we'll continue on with the insurance that we've got, is that there's always been the battle of you submit it through Tricare, and Tricare goes, well, I know you have other insurance and you're probably covered under it, so we're not going to pay this because you're covered under it. And then the Tricare battle goes on and wages on. And unfortunately, we're typically not successful because that employer insurance does exist. It also doesn't support our community who is EFMP, for example, who when that airman or that soldier has to is mobilized, that family then has to identify EFMP, and those benefits do kick in. But as soon as they're off of orders at 180 days, poof, they're gone. And Tricare doesn't kick in immediately for no one.
180 days, and that's it. I mean, you can phase it out.
The perception to our civilian sectors, oh, you have great insurance and it kicks right on in and there should be not a problem. And then you go to the pharmacy and you can't get the prescription for your child.
Exactly.
And you
becomes a challenge. And I've been a parent of, 3 boys who've identified ZFMP who have been in DEERS their entire lives. And so having gone through this for such a long period of time, kind of become seasoned at figuring out what I should and shouldn't do. But our new spouses are at a severe disadvantage. Our new families are at a severe disadvantage, given the changes in Tricare, given the changes in coverages, given the fact that the websites aren't typically updated as often as they should be. It's usually just easier to stick with the doctors you have, stay with your civilian insurance, and if you pay out of pocket, you pay out of pocket, because most employers now are incredibly accommodating of it. Now, I do want to give you one other resource before we go, and this one is a critical resource. The National Resource Directory, which can be found at nrromeodelta.gov, is actually broken down into states, and it's broken down into resources. And it actually gives you information regarding veterans benefits, because as most people don't know, you can have, well, previously we've actually finally changed it, but the VA didn't recognize our airmen and soldiers who served for 20 years, who didn't activate under any Title 32 AGR orders or Title 10 orders. So if they stayed in that training status their entire careers, they weren't recognized as veterans. No, they weren't. And they weren't entitled to any benefits either. And so we have an entire generation, multiple generations rather, of National Guardsmen who aren't considered official veterans by the VA. This website that I told you about will give you information regarding local doctors, local communities. If our veterans are out there and they need a ride to the doctors, a ride to the hospital, it'll tell you which organizations are doing that, which organizations are there to help homeless veterans and homeless National Guardsmen and active duty as well. This will also give you information regarding schools, information regarding absolutely everything, Yellow Ribbon, VA, post 9/11, all of it. And it's updated constantly. And so I always direct people to nrd.gov because most people don't know it's out there. And it's an invaluable resource.
I would say. So I'm going to get all these resources from my wonderful friend today, and I'm going to post that on there. So please, and then everybody shares that. Thank you for coming. I do want to say that as of tomorrow at 7 a.m. on my personal page, not our work page, our friend Megan is going to do a live prayer for anyone who wants to join in and share that in honor of Catherine Nix. She goes by Kate, who was one of the 12 victims that sadly lost her life just recently. She is a military spouse. She's also a National Guard spouse. So this hits home for when I did this series. You never know how things are going to ever go, and I didn't. Of course, you never know this, but this hits home to all of us. She's a military spouse. She's also a National Guard spouse. So we decided to wear blue as a team together. We're all working on this. It's been amazing to see everybody collaborate of who wants to pick parts and help. Stacy did a wonderful frame for our Facebook pages, and a flyer that we're trying to please spread that out. I would love for our Facebook just to explode on for the love for Kate. My sincerely condolence to your family, to her children, and to the other victims. It's devastation, very sad. So remember that. Thank you, Alicia, for coming on. And
thanks for having me.
I know you educated me so much. I love it. Every time I feel like my brain gets so big.
Yeah, I'm like a little history buff of the National Guard. So
I know, I love it. I'm always asking you other questions, and this is fantastic to actually get to know personally a little bit more in depth about National Guard. I have gotten to know Coast Guards through their series a little bit more, and then being in DC this time, I really loved meeting the National Guard spouses. And Sam has opened my eyes to some wonderful things. And even though you were my friend, like we never talked about it, like. And just being,
we typically do. We talk about all the things.
Yeah, she was able to explain some things, and so thank you all. Tomorrow we have our last, but not least, because Sheila Brooks is fierce. We love her, and she will mention all about like the volunteering and how you can really connect, because that is her baby, and something that I believe in too. So we might have to control ourselves tomorrow. You know, it's going to be a Sabbath exciting day because we get together and it's a little crazy.
Yeah.
So thank y'all again. And remember that Military Home Base brings you home one base at a time. Have a blessed Thursday.
Take care.
Take care.
Bye.